During the funeral, lightning struck the coffin 6 times. Then they heard a scream. You never, ever get over the loss of a loved one. You will always feel their absence, wonder what could have been. And special events and holidays will always carry some measure of sadness. Getting struck by lightning feels like hell itself. I was struck back on June 27 this past year on the Magellan Rim in Arizona. A friend and fellow group member was killed by the same bolt, and I was completely incapacitated, but I stayed conscious. The pain is indescribable, but I'll do my best. Imagine, if you will, a solid, molten, churning core of fire and heat, not unlike the core of the Earth itself, sitting at the very center of your body. From this central core, there is a continuous, pulsing throbbing of pure pain. It felt like being on fire from the inside out, and there isn't anything that can be done to help. The pain was so severe. The ambulance that arrived 2 hours after being struck was only able to drive a distance of roughly 7 to 5 feet on the bumpy forest road before they stopped. They stopped because of the screams emanating from within the very depths of my being. It was the sound of horror, of pure pain. Upon stopping, one of the rescuers looked at me, looked across at the other one sitting in the back with me and said, "If we don't get a chopper in here, he'll die." Later at the hospital and Flagstaff, after getting airlifted from the mountain, I recalled crying, begging and pleading with the trauma doctor to sedate me because it hurt so bad he couldn't. I simply had to write it out. Some people claim to have survived it because they were successful in bypassing a major part of the electricity to the ground, so they got lucky. A typical lightning show looks like this. If you look closely, you'll find that he's wearing a suit, which is like a dense network of chains, and he's standing on a metal platform. So electricity always chooses the easier path to go to the ground, since this is the less resistive path. If you imagine removing that suit and the metal platform while you're standing on the ground, chances might be that your body gets instantly converted to ash, so you might not know it. Grieving is part of human way to show deep emotion when a loved one dies. Some can shake it off after a few weeks, others can take months or years. The best way to accept it is that we're all mortals, that life with a physical body is temporary, and our hearts will eventually stop pumping. The best way is to enjoy the life in this reality and treat each day as a new beginning. Actually, it's not really a total goodbye, but only transition. Someday both will meet again in different reality, and we'll see each other later. We can keep the aglow in our heart by reminding the years when both of us are still together. In this reality, anyone can feel the essence of the loved ones through the heart chakra. It always is there. They can still communicate with them when cemetery guard makes their rounds during lightning, and something shocking happened this tragic day. A woman is believed to have been buried alive by mistake and lay conscious inside her coffin for 11 days before trying to fight her way out of the stone tomb. Rose Angela Almighty dos Santos, 37, appears to have desperately tried to escape her wooden casket, which had been nailed shut after she was buried alive. But she had already died by the time family members smashed open the tomb last Friday after locals reported hearing screams coming from her grave, according to reports. Shocking footage shows the commotion in the Sonora Santana Cemetery in Rio das Navy, northeastern Brazil, as local men took out the heavy coffin and removed the lid. Some people asked to call an ambulance as others touched the woman's feet and commented how warm she feels. Married Mrs. Santos was declared dead by a hospital on January 28 and was buried the next day. People living near the cemetery alerted her family on February 9, days after she had been laid to rest after hearing screams and bangs coming from inside the tomb. Her body had reportedly turned around and still warm cotton wool, which had been in the woman's ears and nostrils, had come out, and she had injuries on her hands and forehead where it appeared she had tried to fight her way out. The nails around the sides of the coffin lid had also been pushed upwards, and there were scratches and blood on the inside. They claim Ms. Santos had been at the hospital in Brazil's northeastern state of Bahia for a week after being rushed there by her family with severe fatigue. She suffered 2 cardiac arrests before dying from septic shock, according to her death certificate. The woman, who was married but didn't have children, reportedly suffered fainting spells since she was 7 years old and took anticonvulsant medicines. Her family said their goodbyes at the wake that held that night, and she was buried in a concrete tomb at the municipal cemetery in her hometown of Rio das Neves the following day. But last Friday, residents living on the street next to the cemetery raised the alarm after hearing screams, banging and groans coming from inside the woman's stone tomb housewife. Natalina Silva told Brazil's G1 website that many people had heard muffled screams during the night. She said, "When I got there, right in front of the tomb, I heard banging from inside it. I thought the kids who play around the cemetery were playing a joke on me. Then I heard her groan twice, and after those two groans, she stopped." MS Santos' mother, Germany to Almira, 66, said that when they took out and opened the coffin, they found injuries to her body, which she claimed weren't there when they buried her. She said she had tried to open the lid. Even the nails that had been hammered in were loose. Her hands were injured like she had been trying to get out. Ana Francisca Dias, who lives near the cemetery, told Brazil's global TV station, "There were 500 people who came here and packed the cemetery. Everybody else went to see. Lots of people touched her foot and everybody saw that she was still warm. She wasn't cold." The family believed that MS Santos was declared dead in error and have reported the incident to the police. MS Santos' sister, Issa Maria Almighty, said, "We don't want to accuse any doctor. We don't want to cause any problems. But we witnessed that situation that there's no way a person can be buried for 11 days and still be warm." Police Chief Arnaldo Monti, who is leading the investigation, said, "We have today started to take statements from family members and other people. If need be, we will assume MS Santos' body again, so we can get to the bottom of what really happened." A spokesman for the Hospital do Este, which declared her dead, said they will provide all necessary information requested from them to the family and authorities. Other ways to survive a tragedy relatives believe the bizarre home cure would take the energy from the lightning strike out of Annabella Stress. A teenager was buried alive to cure crippling back pains she has been experiencing after she was recently struck by lightning on her way to school in Montreal, Colombia, as relatives believed it would take away the energy the lightning left inside her. 8-year-old Annabella Steros was placed in a giant hole, which was filled with earth and covered up to her neck for 3 days a week in her family's garden. She was treated in hospital, but continued to suffer back pain she claimed prevented her from walking properly. The treatment involved her being buried for up to 4 hours a day over 3 days. Doctors studied medicine, but not lightning, Anna said. "I know that getting into that hole, I'm not going to get better because these are ancient things," her grandmother, Blanca de la Rosa, said. "What we're doing is taking the fire out of the light, the heat out of the energy." Anna's mom, Melina, added, "Locals told me before I took her to the hospital we'd be better off burying her instead to take the energy away from the lightning. I'm praying she comes out okay. She can't walk properly, and the burns she suffered on her feet caused her pain. I trust in God." Local doctors have expressed their skepticism over the treatment. Walter Gomez, who works out of a clinic in the regional capital, Monterrey, admitted that there were a lot of ancient beliefs among the community about how to cure storm victims, including burial. There's no specific or scientific proof that burying a patient who has been struck by lightning has any beneficial effects to their recovery, Gomez added. However, life has taught us to survive by different ways. You probably just get numb or be depressed. It gets tiring, really, especially when you know people do it on purpose. Speaking from experience, people rarely figure out the reason you change because of them.